All right. I think we're good. I'm just waiting for my channel to confirm that I'm live. A little slow today, a little snoozy.
Look, it's not a big day for any kind of Star Wars thing. So who needs to be on top of stuff?
Here we go. It's just my chat completely stopped updating.
Oh. Well, how important is that really?
I think we're good.
All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tap Cap Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast with one mini fridge currently in sight. And it's got a nice blue light, which is bathing the entire conversation that we're about to have in suggestive themes.
So, are you a blue light person? Have you ever drank blue light and not thought it was disgusting?
I don't know what blue light is.
Labatt Blue? Light?
Oh,
the beer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Labatt Blue. It doesn't really do much for me. I kind of think of it as like an old man beer because my dad used to drink it.
Yeah, that was my dad's brand as well.
Yeah,
I think he switched now, but back in the day.
Yeah, my dad was mostly Keith's, but like he was on the Labatt Blue train occasionally. Doesn't do much for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Good
Anyway, welcome to the stream, everybody. For those who are new to the program, TapCap Transmissions is, I believe, according to Guinness World Records, the best Star Wars podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, the audio versions are fully available. I decided not to upload the last episode on its own because it was so short. So I'm really just going to throw it at the end of this one. So audio fans, there you go. Audio files. Yep. Speaking of files, today we're going to talk about some of the clones that I love in the series. That's right, the series finale of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. So, of course, full spoilers for there. We're not going to be holding any punches. We're not going to be hiding anything behind innuendo. The full story today on the podcast. Before we do that, though, Corey, any Star Wars news that you wanted to talk about before?
There's actually today. There's been so many things that have been coming out. We had another teaser for Tales of the Empire, which is coming out this weekend. In the last couple of days, we've had the announcement for Star Wars Hunters, and we've also got a Star Wars update for the Lego Adventure mode in Fortnite. So I don't know if that's like 3 things nested too deep for anyone to really care about it, but like no one plays Fortnite, right? That's not a big game.
No, I don't think so. I don't think Lego's very popular either.
Yeah, that couldn't be me.
Yeah, that looks good. I mean, I only played the actual like Lego Fortnite mode once, and that was when we played it. But
yeah, I wasn't even there for that one. So I don't even know what it is.
I don't really know either, to be honest. I don't really know either. So that is a thing. I'm sure that's going to be huge. I noticed there was like a lot of really positive reception to that, which you know, it remains Star Wars remains popular in the zeitgeist, which is good to know, I guess.
It's too bad that it's not like more actual Star Wars games coming out instead of like Star Wars content or Star Wars modes for other games. Like Hunters is coming out June 4th, but it'll still be like we're getting at least 2 this year, but Hunters is 3 years delayed at this point.
Yeah, so Hunters is a weird one, where it's sort of been in like soft launch in various regions for a long time. I think like recently-ish, it was added to like Australia. So there have been like a decent amount of people playing it. I haven't because I will admit like I'm not super interested in it. I told the story before, I think, but I saw like a really early version of this game when it was more of like a cover shooter than it is now. And I don't know, like it looks okay, but the fact that it's mobile and Switch only doesn't have me super excited.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. It's the kind of game that I most often get really into. So I mean, I'm not sure how it'll land for me, but I'm hopeful. So I'm gonna put at least 10 hours into it.
Kind of be the new version of what was that Pokemon game called?
Pokemon Unite.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of what I'd hope for out of it. I haven't played Pokemon Unite in a while, but I've seen people say more and more about how it's like pay to win or something. So I don't want that. But I thought when we played Pokemon Unite, it was fun.
Yeah.
I'd be down for a Star Wars version of that. I just like MOBAs, so
Right.
that's my thing.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty big. I'm kind of curious to see whether there is any interest in that at all. Because it has been like thrown around so long, and
Yeah.
I don't know how much they're going to push it or what, but I'm interested.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're just trying to like burn it off at least.
Mhm.
But yeah, since there's been this kind of slow, gradual getting to it, I don't think there's many people who were really itching for it by this point. So
Yeah, because anyone who's really wanted to play it could pop up a VPN and just do it.
yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens. But then 2 months after that, we've got Outlaws coming out as well. I keep calling Outlaws Hunters, and I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
not that's completely different.
yeah, they are
Uh,
two entirely different games.
in one, the hunters are celebrated and thrown into an arena for entertainment. The other, they're an outlaw. Um, the final
Where's the
bit
justice?
the final bit of news that I saw was we did get a look at, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the Phantom Menace 25-year screenings have begun, and someone recorded, a look at the Acolyte. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that it happened. I haven't watched it because I don't like watching horizontally flipped low volume or low quality trailers for things anymore. I've decided that's a line in the sand for me until I
Oh,
get
you
really
don't
really
gotta
desperate.
pivot your desktop monitor? Just
But that doesn't fix the resolution.
no.
Look, if it wasn't a day or a week where there was already going to be like full resolution, very dark stuff for me to watch with like some visor lighting, then maybe I'd be thinking if you were like in a 6 month dry period for Star Wars visual mediums, then maybe I would have thrown that on there and had to deal with that. But I don't have to deal with it, so I
You're gonna
didn't.
tell me that you won't watch something dark, grainy, hard to see. You covered every episode of Kenobi, and I didn't hear
No,
you.
that was just dark and hard to see. It wasn't that grainy,
That's true.
and it
That's
wasn't. I didn't have to move my monitor at all to watch Kenobi.
somebody else. So I tweeted it out, and somebody did post one where it was flipped. So that's at least one thing kind of
Oh,
fixed.
okay,
So,
never mind. I'm gonna watch it right after this then.
yeah,
It's fine.
it's like 2.5 minutes of new content. It's pretty good. Someone was like, I was reading some of the reaction, and someone was like, I can't help but see Carrie Ann Moss as Trinity,
Hmm.
like as if that's a negative thing. Like they're 100% relying on that, right?
Yeah, I mean that's probably why they pick. I mean, I saw your tweet talking about Space Trinity, which
Yeah.
are do they not ever go to space at all in the Matrix? I forget what
They
happened in the
go
last two
like
movies.
they don't go into space, but they fly above like the cloud layer because they nuke the
Okay,
planet to like try to kill the machines.
naturally,
Very epic and very smart move.
and then
Um,
Fallout happens.
yeah, exactly. Well, they kill all the sunlight to the planet, but
Yeah.
so that's not great. But it reminded me the way she fought was a lot like an agent from The Matrix. Have you seen the Matrix movies?
Yeah, I haven't watched
Yeah.
the. I mean, I haven't seen the newest one, but I've
Okay,
watched the
well,
other
that's
three.
fine. The Agent Smith's not in that one. Yeah, she fights a lot like Agent Smith, where she just like they're like throwing punches at her and stuff, and she's just like is just not even coming close to connecting. So that's cool. I'm
Like some
actually
sort
pretty
of force user or something.
yeah, I gotta say, I was like for the first half of the clip, it's like a bar fight, and I'm like, okay, like they're throwing people across tables and stuff. Like I've seen this. Not
Is
really
that the one
impressed.
that was in the? Is it footage from the same fight that was in the prior trailer? Then
There is some footage from it, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of it. But then the actual fight between I forget the character's name and what is her name? Master Instera and what's her name again in the Carry On? It's like
Mm,
Inistera or what is it?
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll keep looking it up while you talk about what your point is.
Oh yeah. Well,
Jedi Master Indara.
Indara. Yeah, yeah. I was like mixing her up with Vinestra Row. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, pretty good trailer, a pretty good little thing. I assume that well, actually, maybe they won't ever release it on its own. I don't know because it is kind of just like a longer action sequence. Maybe not.
Yeah. I think we'll get at least one more trailer before the show starts, but that's only a
Oh
month
yeah,
out from now, so like
yeah,
probably a week before we'll get something. But
yeah. So speaking of shows we won't be getting and where we might be getting, um, I
the Bad
think
Batch season
that
3?
well, we got that. I think a lot of our predictions about the Bad Batch end up being wrong.
Yes.
um,
Yeah, I think that's fair. Very little of what we said turned out to be right. But I
but I
still
was
think they were
convinced there
valid
was
thought process.
yeah. So the final episode was titled "The Cavalry Arise." I think we all were convinced. I was taking it as like just accepted that we would be seeing Rex and crew show up
Yeah.
to help in the rescue. And I swear there was a scene in the trailer that we didn't see in in the season, but whatever. That doesn't happen. Um, the potential seeding for an Omega show that doesn't happen.
I kind of
At
wonder
least,
if that one at least wasn't something where the plans changed because Michelle Ang had done an interview talking about how there were different ideas for what Omega's future in Star Wars might be. And there was like some that had a much bigger role in the near future and and or maybe not in the near future, but a much bigger role going forward. And that kind of got dropped in favor of what they did here, where like we know she's going to be going and joining the rebellion eventually, but she's not going to be doing anything in the next little while, or at least probably isn't going to be doing anything in the next little while. So I don't know if maybe that was something they were potentially setting up and then just decided against.
yeah, exactly. I I saw your video title, which was like I've got mixed feelings with the finale. That's really how I feel as well. Where on one hand, I'm happy that the characters. I'm not disappointed. None of the Bad Batch died. I thought that was
Yeah.
definitely a distinct possibility. Um, I just I don't know. I like it the season, and I was a little worried about this, definitely end up feeling rushed. And there were episodes of like the finale that really contributed to this.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the stuff is just for me wrapped up a little bit too cleanly. And probably the best example of this is Nala say like dropping a grenade. Like she just walks into the lab and like she's on like the most secure Imperial site ever, and she like destroys all
Well,
this.
it wasn't very secure at that point.
Well, true, but
How
she
secure is your Zillow Beast facility?
well, I mean, I'd probably like have a backup server in the mountain or something. I don't know.
No, you don't make backups in Star Wars. That's not how it works. You have one copy of a file, you beam that up to a spaceship, or you close the shield and no one gets to see it. That's all there is to it.
That's true.
It did
Um,
kind of feel like a Rogue One situation where no one ended up dying other than Rampart and Nala Se. I guess Hemlock died and Scorch, but all the
yeah,
villains and Nala
they
Se.
took all the teasing towards Rampart like being not good, but being a kind of an anti-hero. And I was like, no, don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate what they did there.
Me
Where like
too.
I was thinking there'd be an opportunity for Rampart to like for the Bad Batch to say like Rampart didn't make the choice to be part of this because choice is such a big theme for it.
Yeah,
And then he had the opportunity to make a choice and he made a terrible one. And then he suffered the consequences of that, which,
yeah,
that's
you could have just chilled. He could have left on the ship going out.
he even thought that's what they should do at first, but then rather than just wait on the shuttle, he decides he's gonna go and get himself and Nala Se killed.
Right. Um, for me, like I don't know, a lot of the episode was about them fighting the other clones as well. Like
Yeah.
they sort of answered the question of what's going on with the clones, the clone assassins. It's not what I expected. It turns out they are really just other like well-trained clones who are being like further indoctrinated. We get like a look at one of their faces and he's just an ordinary clone. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess not that you could tell, but yeah, I don't know. Like we get the kind of big battle between them and the Bad Batch like taking capture or taken into the Empire's control, and they try to brainwash them. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a bit too much of like the going back and forth for me.
Hmm.
Um, when and again, there were lots of like I liked a lot of the episode, but it definitely like the more I think about it, the more like I kind of feel pretty confident that they definitely weren't planning this from the start for this season. Um,
Like this season being the end.
yeah,
Like I think what the episode did best was address what the core themes of the show are. Like it wrapped those up thematically really well. But I
Mhm.
feel like it was a very good episode of the Bad Batch. But as the final episode of the Bad Batch, the way that certain things were wrapped up, I did feel a little unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Like I think the biggest example of this for me is with Wrecker and Crosshair, where I like the specifics of what has happened with Crosshair, where like the trembling hand, instead of just being like, oh, he's better now and he can just snipe things all day, he gets it cut off, and then he has to accept that he can be worth something without having to be a sniper. But we're not going to get the opportunity to see that. And even just the
He
reunion
still
with
is a sniper
Omega,
at the end, like,
yeah.
that's the
But
last thing
like
he does.
there's literally no scene with Omega and Wrecker back together. Like
Mhm.
Wrecker is seemingly dying off screen. Then Crosshair and Hunter walk out. Omega is like crying because I thought at that point actually that Wrecker was dead.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
then the show just kind of wraps up, and like there's no kind of fulfillment of this is the Bad Batch back together where they're like saying anything. They all sit down, which I did like that, and I like the Hunter and Omega part. But it just felt like there could have been more with Omega and some of the other members of the group, like having accomplished their goal. And that's I think the biggest thing that was missing for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Like, they do really set up this sweet, end for the characters, which is nice. We don't get that very much, but we never really kind of actually see that other than like, oh,
Yeah,
it's about to happen where they go off to Pabu. But we
yeah,
don't see like I was waiting for, the big emotional moment. Like Rebels, for example, does a really good job with this, where like after where the epilogue for Rebels is like quite long. It must be like 10 minutes
yeah,
long or 5 minutes long, where you've got, oh, this is what's going on with Ezra, like this is what all the characters are doing. We've got emotional moments. We've got the Sabine has the what's it called? The drawing. It's great.
yeah,
I definitely would have liked more of that from the show,
yeah,
whether it was on Pabu or whether they did it on Mount Tantiss before leaving.
yeah. Yeah, even just like having them walk into the room and pick up Wrecker, because it was just like, oh, we shot the guy. Let's cut to a shot of the transport leaving, and it's just like, give us an Omega and Wrecker hug or something. And then even then, I think I would have felt a little bit better about that part. But
Yeah. No, I agree. I see in the chat a lot of people are talking about Scorch. Don't care. I don't
no,
care. Who
like
cares?
whenever I was talking about Scorch earlier in videos, I was like talking about how it doesn't matter if Scorch is Scorch or just like a stand-in for like another Republic commander. It's just a name they use that is a reference. That's all it was going to be. But
Mhm.
I am a little disappointed that the commandos didn't factor in a little bit differently, where like the agency of the clones was such a big thing, and then we
Yeah.
never even had it slightly examined of why Scorch or the other commandos might have been in the position, like other than like we saw in season one that Gregor was able to leave, but literally nothing on what Scorch is like. Is this a choice that Scorch made? Is this the chips? Like literally nothing on that. And I think that was one of the biggest things that could have used a bit more
Yeah.
exploration.
It even I thought it even hinted that we were going to get that in the last little bit as well,
Yeah,
where he's like being ordered to do all these things. I thought at one point he was going to say no.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like I understand why people like Scorch. Um, I don't like Republic Commando as a
neither do
game. I like it as a story and an
I. Yeah.
experience, but the game is not fun. I'm sorry, it's just not. Um, I like Scorch as a character in that game, but the Scorch in this show doesn't share a lot with the Scorch from Legends. Um,
Yeah. Like there's no
other
reason
than the
other than the
name.
fact that Delta Squad is Delta Squad and has these members. There's no reason to believe like it's the same story. It's
Yeah.
just they needed a commando squad. They had this established commando squad in like when they showed up in Clone Wars. So you put that in as a reference. And then now Scorch is here because the commandos were taking over in that position. But yeah, that there was I don't think there was ever any reason to believe it was going to be like some big payoff of like Scorch writing in his diary in an extra scene about how he found Sev.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was surprised, like, how much kind of like you sort of alluded to, they did move away from, like, just the clone storylines in general towards this kind of
Mhm.
narrowing story. Um, yeah, like, I don't know, whether it was, like, an actual discussion of what's going on with the commandos, season 1 really felt all about that, like, both the clones kind of recovering their agency after Order 66, or like the clones being replaced by the TK troopers. Um, it was kind of clear to me halfway through the season or earlier that we weren't going to get a full resolution to that. Maybe we still will, but I definitely was expecting a bit more of it in the finale.
Yeah, it just felt like the Tantiss breakout of the other clones would be such a big moment for the clones as a whole, and that's why I really thought that like they one of the primary objectives for the Bad Batch once they got in would be to alert Rex of where they
Yeah.
were, and then they could turn that into a bigger thing for the clones. But
Mhm.
instead, it's more just we got the resolution uh, of the Bad Batch themselves, and then there's obviously the hints towards the fact that like Echo and Chuchi and now Dr. Carr are going to be out doing other stuff. So I guess that's just going to be something that gets picked up in another. I don't know if that's maybe another show someday or what, but
Yeah, I'm quite curious to see like to what degree these characters are kind of completely sidelined because they're literally on an island right now.
mhm.
Um, it's kind of like the whole Jedi crew, like from Jedi Survivor, where they're there to be used in future stories, but if they're never touched, that's
Well, I think it's a bit different because like with Tanalore, they have the very clear goal of like they want to help set up what becomes like help expand the path.
yeah.
Whereas with the Bad Batch, Hunter saying like I'm kind of done, and Omega I think is done for the moment, and that's why the her joining the rebellion is such a big deal. But like Echo is still active. They are looking for the families of those force sensitive kids, which I don't know if that's ever going to work out for anyone. But
Mm,
Echo, Carr, and Chuchi
sure, yeah.
are definitely active in setting something up.
Yeah, like I was thinking towards the end of the episode about when I was watching, I was a bit surprised by the time jump. I was trying to figure out like whether it really does in a meaningful way actually limit stories. And like to be fair, we know that Rex is still alive, and
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if they made a show about him. I don't think we're going to get like the Bad Batch sequel series.
no.
But I think we could see characters pop up, maybe in other TV shows, maybe in books or something. Um, because yeah, I mean, I really grew to like these characters quite a bit. If one complaint about the finale, I also had what I would have even liked to have more time with them rather than just action.
Yeah,
Especially Wrecker, who I felt like kind of was sidelined a little bit. I mean, we had the first season was Hunter season. The second season was Tex, and I think the second season overall maybe the strongest.
hmm
And then like I think the finale, like the second season finale, I thought was like much better executed than the series finale. Um, Especially like how it hit the emotional beats of character deaths and
yeah.
potential deaths and whatnot.
But it also didn't have the responsibility of really wrapping anything up,
That's
which
true. Yeah.
makes it a little bit easier for it.
Yep.
But I guess with Tech being brought up, that might be a good time to talk about the CX troopers,
Yeah.
where I was kind of so I thought that the CX troopers would at some point be revealed to include someone we already know as like one of the more competent clones, which Hemlock decides to bring in. But the more I was thinking about it, I think thematically that even if it does turn out like in a source book someday, they're going to say, and this was Commander, who gives a fuck? I think for the show's themes, it makes sense showing these guys as what the Bad Batch would be under the Empire, like
Yeah.
what it means for them to have their identity stripped away. And by them saying, like, by them putting it directly in the text of, like, oh, this is this person, look at them coming at us, we need to kill them anyway. Like, I feel like that would still undermine what they're doing a bit. So, like, I don't actually think it's impossible that one of those characters is someone that we know or was intended to be someone that we know, but whoever it is for all intents and purposes dead before
Yeah.
the fight even starts. So I don't think it's particularly different from the characters dying in a previous episode or from Cody going AWOL if it's him or whatever
Yeah.
else.
You're right. I definitely thought as well they were trying to give us a look at like alt universe Bad Batch, and I don't think it was a mistake that I don't think it was a mistake that in the first battle that we see like them all they're kind of mirroring what they did in the first battle of,
Yeah.
I guess it was the Clone Wars season 8. where one of them had a big shield. That was the same thing that Wrecker had. One of them had swords. A hunter was using, I think it was probably just his knife, and plus there was like obviously the sniper character doing the crosshair roll. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and even Omega using the droid to escape the cell, like they were all callbacks. It's just a bizarro callback for the Bad Batch, for the rest of them at least. But like I like it just I feel like CX1 was built up enough. I don't know if the other ones were just I don't know if I would have preferred the having the commandos be more in that role rather than having it be the commandos, which just got reduced to only Scorch that was there by this
Mm.
point. Instead of
I think we
the
did see a couple others, maybe.
yeah, but I don't just maybe have one of those two groups, or have another episode where you could explore those a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe cut down the Fennec adventure and the Ventress adventure into one thing, and then spend I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, people are saying a lot of people seem to think that Tech was the C extra. I don't think either of us were ever at that point. Like,
I thought I thought the armor and silhouette being so similar to his was a possibility,
mm-hmm.
but I mean, I'm mostly only ever engaged in Tech is not dead stuff because I thought it was fun, not because I actually thought it was going to happen. But I did to be honest, when the helmet coming down shot was happening, there was like a brief moment where like, holy shit, that looks like Tech because the hairline, and I thought the earlobe was glasses, but it was just the way the ear looked.
Big ass ears like I have. One were you surprised we got so few answers to questions like why Omega was a female clone, why there were other female clones, why they kind of played with our balls in terms of like the Operation Necromancer thing.
Not necessarily, because I feel like a lot of those were more questions that fans came up with rather than questions that the show was setting up with any level of importance.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was more like fans want to know all the trivia about whatever it is they're watching rather than like having it exist in its own space.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I do think is kind of weird that might have needed a bit more work in universe is that like Tech now knows what Project Necromancer is because like the proto rebels under Chuchi have Dr. Carr with them.
That's
So
true.
how does that turn into the knowledge they may or may not have later? Like, does that whole cell get blown up now?
I guess you can say that maybe she was like technically limited in what she could see because she just got moved to that role.
Yeah, but she still had like she was still the project director by that point, like just under Hemlock.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, she definitely was being kept in the dark about some things. Like before she was there, she didn't know about the children.
Yeah.
So maybe like maybe like Hemlock kept the true Project Necromancer stuff close to his chest. I don't know, but yeah, that is a good question. I was a bit frustrated as well by I quite frustrated by the Moff Tarkin scenes. For one, the Imperial one with the Venators looked sick.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And the model just looked great as well. I guess that's probably our earliest in canon sighting of an Imperial One.
Yeah, that'd be a year after the end of the Clone Wars, I think.
Mm-hmm. But I was a bit frustrated that they just completely threw away Mount Tantiss because I thought it was a pretty interesting location. Now, whether they actually scuttle it and send the money to Project Stardust, which kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the statement about Project Star, like this auditor of the of the crime scene is now going to be the one you tell to redirect funding.
Like,
But
oh yeah, Tarkin just said, yeah, no, move all the fucking janitors from here to the Death Star.
but yeah, Tarkin very explicitly though did not throw away Mount Tantiss. It was shut down in the same way that one might have said a storeroom for Palpatine's cloning stuff on Mount Tantiss might have been shut down.
Oh yeah, I'd say it's very similar to like what Mount Tantiss turns into in Legends.
Yeah.
Um,
Only with a bigger Zillo Beast shaped hole in it now, which is still running around on Wayland.
yeah, and instead of like having the like deep archives for the Empire built under thousands of tons of rock and hidden in the center of the mountain, it's just kind of you get it to a
There.
terminal and press a
Yeah.
button and one grenade kind of fucking does it.
Yeah, and like luckily they have another mountain that's still intact there that no one really seems to want to talk about.
Yeah, right. They got another Zilla Beast in there.
That's actually the Project Stardust Mountain. It's right there.
like one guy's like, man, what the fuck is going on over there?
That mountain's got to get their shit together. Tarkin's going to reassign them next time the auditor's here.
It's like that's like the like that one over there is like the Empire's like bookkeeping department or something. Just happens to be on the same planet.
But like all of that plus the Emery stuff we were just talking about makes me think that there were plans to clone other Jedi and not just have like some sort of dark Jedi cloning situation and not just jump straight to like Hemlock, can you make 20 copies of my body so I can throw that in the deep core for a while? Thanks, bud. Like I don't think Hemlock even necessarily knew that. Maybe Hemlock did, Carr definitely doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go as far as confidently stating that because I have such a good track record with Bad Batch predictions.
They never explained Hemlock's eyebrows. He's got like the fuckboy eyebrows. He like shaves. There's something like underlying. There's
Can
like an
people not have
underlying
hobbies? Is that a problem for you?
No, there's just like an underlying sexual energy to like Mount Tantiss that I feel like no one's talking about.
Well, yeah,
Like,
Mount.
so you've got Hemlock. He's got the fuckboy eyebrows.
Yeah.
You've got like all the like Imperial operatives have like high experimental fashion going on, basically.
Yeah.
With like the all white, like the big goggles, like yeah, I don't know.
And let's
Palpatine's
be real, the Zillo Beast's head looks like a giant dick.
Palpatine's cooking with something in there.
Classic Nazi behavior, though, having their stupid tailored uniforms. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Did you see that? Did you see the Nazi thing I called out on Twitter? You see the Nazi thing I tweeted?
Again? Yeah, I saw that one where the fucking blue eyes white dragon kid posting next to Nazi apologia.
Well, so somebody made a Hitler fan cam. Like that's the only way you can describe
this is fucking stupid. I know.
It's
what
like literal.
website.
They're like, hey, this looks good. It's like, yeah, it's literal Nazi propaganda, and then with some weird stuff thrown at the end. So I tweeted, this site is like so fucked, basically.
Yeah.
Because it had like 30,000 likes. So, and then my tweet blew up. So I've been dealing with every day. I've been getting weird, like Nazi incels messaging me. And
yeah. No one ever shows you this in school. It's like the fucking exact same newsreel footage of Nazi rallies you always fucking see. Like, no one said some people supported the Nazis. Like, yeah, that's not. Was that the thing that was keeping you from supporting the Nazis before, that you thought like other people back then might not have agreed with you? Fucking weird.
How come they never show us this uncritically and without context? What's funny about the video is that towards the end it gets just like fully insane.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it. Like, yeah, the Nazis, like they've got like well-fitted uniforms, and it's nice to see all the people like, oh, I wonder what they're cheering for. Nothing bad, I'm sure. And then at the end, it's just completely off the fucking rails.
Yeah. Twitter needs to go on.
Yeah. Yeah, Twitter's dust. I think after the NHL playoffs, I'm taking a break.
Yeah, there's nothing good on Twitter. It's just such a fucking waste of time. But anyways, speaking of what's not a waste of time, any other Bad Batch plot points that we haven't really talked about yet? I think we've hit everything I have in my notes for major topics, but do you have any maybe thoughts about where Star Wars animation goes from here?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see kind of what's next, how long it does take until we get the next project. I'm really interested in Tales of the Empire far more than I was for Tales of the Jedi. People are going to want us to talk about it. I see a couple comments too, and you guys can let us know. Cody and Wolf and and we didn't talk about Crosshair's hand as well.
I mean,
Not
we
really,
kind of did at the start,
kind
but
of
yeah,
alluded to it.
going
But
over.
yeah, I'm excited. I hope we don't have to wait too long. I guess would be my main thing. I feel like these characters, like I actually don't have a problem with them, ending a story a bit earlier than they needed to, and even giving us a happy ending. It's very different, and that feels a bit weird, but it's not a bad thing. But I do want to see something else.
Well, like it's such a rare thing for Star Wars to do where there's always this question of like, if this person lives, what are they going to do next? Because like with Star Wars, it's almost never they did this. This was their thing, and now they're gonna go off like this.
Yeah,
Their fight is done. They can retire now. But and part of that is just because Star Wars media was so afraid of moving away from like Han, Luke, and Leia, where like legends would be like they'd try to put Jason and Jaina forward as like, oh, these are your new protagonists, but then they'd get like scared and they'd jump back in and say, oh, like 90-year-old Han is still in a blaster fight with 90-year-old
yeah.
Boba Fett. So I
I
think
got
that's part
shingles.
of the
Take it
media.
easy on me.
Well, if they had shingles, it would at least be a new wrinkle, much like their other wrinkles. But instead, they're just like, oh, 90's the new 30.
Yeah. I'm 90, but I'm literally the exact same, except once a book, the author has to put in something about feeling old and fighting lots of battles.
Like, do you think that maybe the like it they don't seem to want to go anywhere with the animation? Like they want it to stay around because we've got Tales of the Empire coming out. Filoni said that is how they train people up. So there's definitely more shows coming. I think it'll probably be like a year or two, but with all the way that streaming for every media company has been such a big question mark on how viable that will be long term, and now we're starting to see with like the massive plans for shows start moving back towards movies for Star Wars. I'm kind of wondering if that's going to mean a change in their strategy with animation as well.
I think if anything, animation is probably something that in like this changing streaming universe probably could remain, if not as popular, maybe even more so, because I think it's definitely less risky than these live action projects where like there's no way that a season of The Bad Batch costs anywhere close to what a season of The Acolyte or Kenobi or anything costs, especially when you got one guy who can do every fucking voice. Um, so and I don't know, they get a lot more content out of it as well, so you keep people watching. Obviously, the downside is you don't usually see shows pop off as much like towards general audiences. Like The Bad Batch is never going to be anywhere close to The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
but you're keeping your like hardcore base engaged for long periods of time. So I think like with the more reasonable cost and the worry that I think Marvel especially has about like burning people out on live action, so like when the movies come along, they're less of an event. I think animation could maybe even become more relevant.
Yeah, I guess it's probably more of a point of comparison for them of thinking like what can we get out of a show versus a movie when it's live action versus animated stuff for the Star Wars animated movie is not going to be the same draw anyways. But
I
yeah,
don't
like
think they'll ever do another Star Wars animated movie.
I think they might do like a feature length thing, but it'd probably be direct to streaming. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Bad Batch, it's season one, episode one. I think is kind of the limit of what that's going to be. But
yeah.
uh, but like I'm gonna uncritically repeat the numbers I just saw of 90 million budget for Kenobi overall versus a $1 million an episode budget for the Bad Batch. So
Yeah. So your money's going a lot further
yeah,
when it
fair
comes
enough.
to content that you're getting anyway.
But with the likelihood of an Omega and Ventress show gone, with the other setup we've seen now uh, for another possible clone related show focusing on what Rex and Echo are doing, do you think that Ventress is still a possibility for for the next show focus, or has that ship sailed with Omega's retirement, temporary retirement?
I don't know. Like I, this is why I wish I knew more about like what episode before this season was fully planned out was like on the whiteboard. Like we got to hit this. Like was Ventress something that they wanted, for a long time and they they included, even though the season changed scope. Am I wrong? And season 3 was always meant to be the last and was always meant to end with this time jump. Like, I don't know that answer. So, like, I feel like if they knew how the season was going to look and they included Ventress, like, there's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
Like maybe the episode with Omega is more rather than show that she's wanting to take on Omega, maybe it's just meant to introduce kind of wider audiences to the fact that hey, she's still around, even though the book said otherwise. You probably
Yeah.
don't know that, but she's also not the bad person she was anymore, at least not to the same extent. So if that was the case, then yeah, I think we will see more. If it's more the case that they wanted more seasons or they had a different plan for the show. It could just be that that episode is kind of just a quirk of how
Yeah.
things came together.
Yeah. Like if it's not like setting up for something else with her later, it'd kind of feel like if the Ahsoka episode in Mandalorian happened and then just Ahsoka was gone forever after that, which would be very weird. But
Right.
yeah. So the topics that chat was bringing up were, I guess, Crosshair's hand and then Rex and Cody,
Mhm.
or not
Yeah,
Rex. Yeah,
I
Rex.
think you're right. We pretty much did talk about Crosshair's hand.
Well, I think
Obviously,
the biggest thing was just that there's not much to talk about because they didn't give it much attention. Where like I like that development, but like we're not really going to see much of what it turns into.
yeah, I think someone kind of has it right where it's like a trauma thing. It literally
Yeah,
gets cut off, and I did like how before he takes the shot, he kind of does practice his breathing techniques a bit. um, that he's taught, so that's good. Um, yeah, regarding Rex and Cody, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I care a lot less about most individual clones than a lot of people. Like, I don't care about Cody that much anymore. Cody, I feel like I understand why people like him, but he's honestly not even in the Clone Wars that much compared to Rex.
yeah. I think he was just another like he was an opportunity to show another character getting out or what happens to a character if they tried to get out, depending on whether Rampart was being honest about him being
Yeah,
actually AWOL or if he was like brought in somewhere. Because I feel like he's a he's probably the character who or the clone who, if he got out of the Empire, would be most likely to somehow connect with Rex
yeah,
because like they'd have he's not just going to leave and not have connections the same way Rex didn't leave and then just not have connections. So if anyone's going to know, like if anyone's going to naturally glom together, it would be them, which is why since he didn't turn up in that year between the end of season 2 and where we got in season 3, then it just felt to me like it was very likely he had not actually made it away.
yeah,
So I don't know if that thread's ever going to be picked up, but
yeah. I don't know either, and I don't really care. No,
you're not
I'm
a big
kidding. I mean,
fan
I
of
kind
Commander
of, I kind of
Cody's
care. I feel
story
like
in
if
Legends.
Cody wasn't in Cody wasn't in episode 3, which obviously is a big if because he is in episode 3 and he's like the most
Yeah.
prominent clone. For those who haven't watched the Clone Wars, I just don't feel like people would care that much.
Yeah, it's just I think the biggest thing for me is less a direct caring about Cody and more that he seemed
He's
like
like
he
a
would be
represent.
such a is what?
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, don't say what you have to say, Justin.
If you're gonna interrupt me, then fucking spit it out. No, I don't even know what I was gonna say.
It was more how his story applied to Crosshairs. So
That's
just
what I was gonna
it
say.
felt like that didn't go anywhere for that. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So
like,
Steven asks,
not everyone has to love or hate Crosshair like you or Cody like you. Okay,
whatever.
but was there any?
Steven asks, what are
Did
your
you
overall
want to?
thoughts on the show? Great show.
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss
I
it.
really liked
I
it.
really am.
I had a nice tradition of getting up if I was going to watch it early Wednesday mornings instead of staying up Tuesday nights. I'd have a nice
So
plate of
sick
chicken
of that
wings and
shit,
then
by the way.
yeah. Well, Acolyte is coming out at a more reasonable time for us, but not for
Yeah,
other
is it
people.
midnight Eastern? Is that when it
No,
comes out?
it's doing what Ahsoka did, I think, where it
What
was
time
like
was that?
10 p.m.
9?
I think it was like 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern.
That's so much better. I'm watching the fucking NHL playoffs right now, and the Edmonton game the other night started had a listed start time at 11:30 Atlantic time. Puck drop was like 10 to 12. So it was like I'm on my couch, like I'm like, I gotta watch this. I gotta do a video. I'm like, just kill me, please. It's like 2:30 in the morning going to overtime. I fall asleep. My daughter wakes me up because she like needed something, and I look over, the TV's still going. Game's over.
Is there a game on right now?
Yeah, Vegas and Dallas.
Okay, like
Brandon will watch
this
that
is
one.
this is not this is not a judgmental one. Is it open on a monitor for you right now?
No, it's not, and that's why I've got the. Normally, it'd be on this TV over here. That's
Okay,
where. Yeah.
because I'm looking at like the light that your monitor is casting on your wall, and I couldn't tell if the flickering was because it's just like the graininess of the video, or if it's because it's hockey players going back and forth. So it's good to
No,
have an answer.
no hockey players. No.
Okay, that's fine. If you wanted it to be hockey players, I wouldn't hold it against
No,
you.
if it were a Rangers game, it would be on.
Okay, fair enough. Is
Uh,
there anything else to really say with like with the wolf and Rex stuff appearing? Like I kind of feel like it's just they should have been there, and then
yeah,
they were going to deal with any clone stuff, and then they just weren't. So
yeah, and that's kind of one of the other questions we got. Do you think we will get more on this clone rebellion,
I
or
think
will there
that's
be a
the
clone
other likely
rebellion
option.
beyond what we've gotten?
I think there will be more about it. I don't know if they know where that's going to be tackled yet. Whether that's going to be another show, like it could be a like Clone Wars to Bad Batch situation where there's another show in the middle. Like, are
Mm,
we jumping back into the Rebellion era, maybe, or even the
mhm.
sequel trilogy era, where like getting like an actual Rebellion show, not just Rebels, but one in like the height of the Galactic Rebellion, where you are following Omega? Like, that's a possibility, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yep.
Who knows?
Yep.
Because the feeling I got with it was that Omega sneaking away was coming like shortly after the Rebels episode where Mon Mothma does the speech, maybe,
That'd be a good tie-in.
because that seems to be when everyone hears about stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. Um, yeah, I didn't really, and you're right. I like it's pretty purposely left ambiguous, I think. So
yeah,
they got a lot of room to move around, especially with the aging and whatever.
yeah. It's like it can't really be much earlier than that, can it? Because like
No.
the rebellion doesn't exist
Yeah.
before then. Per like for all intents and purposes, it's a thing people know about openly.
I mean, maybe she heard from Rex.
Yeah, I guess there's also whatever Echo's doing, so she might have more ins than that. So yeah,
Yeah, could be that
just
like
trying
one
to
of them stopped by the base, and
yeah, I'm just kind of like trying to compare how old Hunter looks to how old Rex is in Rebels, but
yeah, it's hard to tell.
all right. Anything else coming up in chat or that you would like to talk about with
No, I'm just the
Batch?
last ever Bad Batch episode. Obviously, we'll see. Well, next time we see these characters, I will be happy to see them next time they show
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
and it was a good show. I'm excited to watch it eventually with my son. He watched like bits and pieces here, but he's not sat down and watched it, so that will be fun. And I'm very excited for Tales of the Empire, which comes out in what, 4 days?
Yep, Saturday on or 3 days because Saturday
Oh, yeah, Saturday.
is May 4th. So we'll
Ah,
be
I
talking
gotta
about that
baby
next
shower
week.
that day,
Next,
diaper party.
will we be going back? I guess to the Thursday release schedule or Thursday podcasts with the near future, I suppose. So we'll talk about Tales of the Empire next week. Then
Mhm.
the week after that, we're going to try to do a book.
Yep,
Whether that's going to be I think the Living Force, because you could do the audio book was what
yep,
we settled on for that.
yep.
So that'll be next Thursday and the Thursday after that. So thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, everyone on YouTube. If you enjoyed the podcast we do here, we obviously covered not just whatever Star Wars shows coming out, but we've gone through and done over 100, I think, books by now. Maybe not that many. How many have we done? Do you know?
I think we're around there because this is episode like 170 something of the actual podcast. So I think
Yeah.
more than half have been books. Not recently, but more than half.
Yeah. But all right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Goodbye.